For something that's so fundamental to being human, sexuality can be just incredibly confusing, right? So today, we're going to pull back the curtain. Using the amazing insights from Dr. Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are, we're going to dive into the science of sexual well-being and hopefully find some real clarity. Let's get into it.
So, get this. Over half of all women have reported faking an orgasm. Just let that sink in for a second. Over half. This one statistic, it just shines a huge spotlight on this massive disconnect, what Nagoski calls a pleasure gap, between the sex people feel they should be having and the sex they're actually having.
For way too long, the conversation around this has been just full of myths and a whole lot of self-blame. But what if the real problem isn't what we've been told? What if the answer isn't about trying harder or thinking you need to fix yourself? Okay, here's the big, liberating idea at the heart of all this. Any difficulties you might have with sexual satisfaction, they're almost never a personal failing. It's not about your body, it's not about your hormones, or even your relationship, really. It's all about understanding how your most important sex organ, yeah, I'm talking about your brain, is actually wired for arousal. This gap, the space between our expectations and our reality, it can be so deeply frustrating. But here's the good news. Understanding the science behind your sexual response is the first and honestly the most powerful step to closing that gap for good. So, what is the explanation? Well, there's this key concept from brain science called the dual control model, and it totally offers a new way to understand how we respond sexually. Think of it like the instruction manual for your brain that you just never got. And the model is actually beautifully simple. Your brain has two totally independent systems working at all times. You've got a sexual accelerator that's constantly scanning the world for reasons to get turned on, and then you've got a sexual brake that's scanning for all the reasons not to. These two things, working together, determine how you feel in any given moment. So things like erotic thoughts, a deep connection with someone, or a sensual touch, those all hit the accelerator. But then you have things like stress about work, feeling self-conscious about your body, or worrying about performance, and those are powerful, powerful breaks. And for a lot of people, especially women, those breaks can be really, really sensitive. This quote from Emily Nagoski just says it all, doesn't it? You can have the most perfect romantic setup, but if your brain is slamming on the brakes because of stress or anxiety, arousal just isn't going to happen. It's not just about turning on the ons. You've got to turn off the offs. And because of this super sensitive brake system, context becomes, well, everything. The single most important factor for sexual well-being isn't about some secret technique. It's about your environment, both what's happening around you and, just as important, what's happening inside your own head. And of all the things that can hit the brakes, stress is the undisputed champion. I mean, it makes sense, right? When your brain is in survival mode, worrying about a deadline or replaying an argument, arousal takes a very distant backseat. It's just simple biology. So what do we mean by context? Well, think about your own life. It's your day-to-day stress levels, it's your general mood, it's the amount of trust you have in your partner, it's how you feel about your body, how much you criticize yourself, and it's your fundamental sense of emotional safety. All these things, they create the conditions for arousal to either flourish or just fade away. I love Nagoski's garden metaphor for this. It's just a perfect way to think about it. You can't force a flower to bloom by yelling at it, right? You have to create the right conditions, good soil, water, sun. It's the exact same thing for sexual response. It absolutely needs an environment of low stress, self-compassion, and trust to have any chance of flourishing. Okay, so how do we actually cultivate this garden? Well, it starts with a pretty revolutionary shift in perspective. We need to move away from focusing on performance and turn our attention entirely toward pleasure itself. This is such a transformative idea. What if sex wasn't some kind of race to a specific finish line? The pressure to perform is a huge break. So when you shift the goal to simply experiencing pleasure, in whatever form it takes, with or without an orgasm, you suddenly release all that pressure. You give your accelerator a chance to finally do its job. So here's a practical way to think about it. First, just get curious about your own breaks. Start to notice what's happening in your life and in your head when you feel desire start to fade. Second, try to create a low-pressure setting. Third, actively manage your stress by completing the cycle. This just means signaling to your body that the threat is over, which you can do with exercise, a long hug, or even a good cry. And finally, in the moment, just bring your attention back to pure sensation. Creating the right context also means we have to look inward. We've got to identify and pull out all those weeds, the harmful cultural messages about sex and bodies that have kind of taken root in our minds over the years. Nagoski points to three main sources of the shame. There's the moral message that says wanting pleasure is somehow wrong or flawed, the medical message that tells women their bodies should work just like men's, and of course, the media message, which is constantly telling us our bodies are inadequate and always need fixing. Just recognizing these outside voices is the first step to reclaiming our own story.
And when you put all of this incredible science together, the brakes, the accelerator, the importance of context, it all leads to one simple and just profoundly powerful conclusion.
If you have ever struggled with desire or arousal, please hear this. You are not broken. You don't need fixing. You have a completely normal, healthy sexual response system. You are whole, exactly as you are. Nagoski leaves us with one last brilliant metaphor. Culture gives us a map for what sexuality is supposed to look like and feel like. But then there's the terrain, and that's your own body, your own brain, and your unique personal experience. And here it is. This is the ultimate takeaway. For so long, when our experience, our terrain, didn't fit the map we were given, we were told that our bodies were the problem. But the science is crystal clear. Your terrain is perfect. If there's a mismatch, it's the map that's wrong, not you. It's time to trust your own experience.
So, we'll leave you with this thought to chew on. What could possibly change for you if you just set aside that old, faulty map and began a journey of discovery into your own unique terrain? What might you find if you approached yourself not with judgment, but with genuine curiosity and compassion?